Today's November 1st. Today's quote is, "What we call happiness. Most of what we call happiness is only the avoidance of pain. People's preoccupation with sex, drugs, alcohol, and many other forms of so-called pleasure simply proves the truth is painful and a torture to bear." In other words, we're afraid of reality. We don't like reality. We don't like the way things are. We have as Rabindra Prabhu said, we have a fundamental quarrel with reality. We don't like the fact that things are the way they are. And one of the ways we deal with that is to intoxicate ourselves, not necessarily through drugs or alcohol, but it can be through sex, it can be through sports, it can be through work, it can be through reading fiction novels. In so many ways, I mean people in general, but it may also affect devotees to some degree, we try to find our happiness, not in actual happiness, but in forgetfulness. And, Prabhupada said there's no happiness in the material world. But that's a qualified statement, because when Prabhupada says happiness, he means ananda. So if you ask people, are you happy? People will say, yeah, well, when I do this or that, I'm happy. So that's their definition of happiness, and our spiritual definition of happiness are different. That's why Prabhupada said there's no happiness. But people actually experience happiness. And Krishna acknowledges that there's happiness in three modes of nature. So it's a perception of happiness, but the quality of happiness is lower in ignorance, and it's a little higher in passion, and it's a little higher in goodness. But when we talk about happiness, it's really, really valuable for us to know that we don't mean material happiness, we don't mean sattvic happiness, we don't mean a nice day at the beach, perfect weather, nice vegetarian food and so forth with the people we like. That's not what we mean by happiness. We mean ananda. We mean bliss. So if we say there's no happiness in the material world, we're saying there's no ananda, at least not in material activity. Just like Prabhupada said, there's no love in the material world. And you would say, but I love my children, my mother loved me and so forth. But the love Prabhupada's talking about is not that kind of love. So when he says there's no love like Yashoda has for Krishna. That does not exist in this world. So when we say there's no happiness in this world, we don't mean people aren't experiencing happiness, just as we say people are experiencing the emotion of love, but it's relative. It's not prema, it's not bhava, it's love, material love. So material happiness. People are experiencing happiness, but Prabhupada has made this point many times, that usually the kind of happiness they're experiencing is a negation of suffering. If you're not suffering, you had a good day. I was thinking about this. I didn't even know I was going to be reading this quote. I was thinking about this actually yesterday. The day was nice, the weather was nice. We went out, had some errands to do, and everything went well. And by everything going well, I mean nothing went wrong. Hare Krishna. Well, something went really well. I met the best friend of Rameshwar Prabhu, who grew up with him in New York. So that was nice. He hasn't seen him in 50 years, But what I was thinking, you say we had a good day. Well, we went out, we didn't get in an accident, the weather was good. I didn't stub my toe. I didn't get in a fight with my wife. The car didn't break down. I had a good day. Nothing went wrong. We went here and there. That's kind of like we're programmed to register happiness as like, well, nothing went wrong. So I think it's really good to look at your own life and see, am I trying to just avoid pain and call that happiness? Because ananda, the bliss of Krishna consciousness, that's like, it doesn't compare to that kind of happiness. And it's always good to remind ourselves that the bliss of Krishna consciousness is real happiness. And if you actually have it, you won't even worry about happiness here in this world. You won't even perceive it to be happiness. And a relief of misery will definitely not be happiness for you. Hare Krishna.